My name is John Hartnett. I'm CEO and founder of SVG Ventures and Thrive. We're an innovation and investment platform based in Silicon Valley, and we're focused on the agri-food tech sector. Our Thrive Accelerator is the #1 agri-food accelerator in the world. We work with over 5,000 startups in 100 countries. We have been doing this for 6 years and have graduated 6 cohorts around the world. And those startups have created almost $1 billion in value. We also work with over 40 corporations and 5,000 farmers, identifying technologies to transform their business and accelerate their innovation and growth strategy through investment and acquisition. We run major agri-food events around the world with global partners like Forbes Media.
And these are key agri-food events that are bringing our ecosystem together, our corporations, our farmers, our investors and startups.
We like the idea of Thrive and its ability to really take an incubated idea and build it into a business.
People have great ideas around the world, and what they've done a really nice job of is convince these folks, one, to come and interact with us, two, to listen to our problems so they can then adopt and adapt their technology or their solution to our problems. And it's going to make change and improvement and sustainability move ahead much more quickly for our industry. And so Thrive helps bridge that gap between the know-how in Silicon Valley and the application here with growers in the Salinas Valley and growers around the world.
We've been working with Thrive for a couple of years, and we've just really been impressed with the ecosystem that they've built. Their global reach, the quality of innovators and entrepreneurs, the investors that come, the industry partners. This is really a terrific long-term partnership that we're excited to support.
It is really something that you couldn't get on your own as a startup. There's just no way you could facilitate that type of networking and that type of opportunity without someone like Thrive. And I think they just do it best.
So hi everyone, I'm joined by John Hartnett, founder and CEO of Thrive Accelerator, powered by SVG Ventures. Hi John.
Hey Olivia, how are you doing?
I'm great, yourself?
Great. It's busy times here and strange times all at once, but enjoying things here.
Yeah, for sure. So here is Silicon Valley, California. That's where both your organizations are based. Can you tell us a little bit about the strategic missions you've given your organizations?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we're based here in Silicon Valley, just south of San Francisco. I think many of you are familiar with Silicon Valley. I'm actually originally from Ireland, but I've been here for about 20 years. And SVG Thrive, we kind of do the combo. SVG Ventures is our venture fund, and Thrive is our accelerator and platform. And our vision really is to advance the future of food and agriculture through innovation. I think as many of us know, some of the problems that the agriculture industry are dealing with in terms of, an increased population, a change in consumer demographics, labor challenges, scarce resources like water, land, sustainability, climate. There's a whole host of challenges there, and it's not just about incrementing our way forward. We have to innovate our way forward, and entrepreneurs are the ones that can solve many of the problems, create solutions, and create businesses that will attract investment and create jobs. So, our vision really has been to unleash the best entrepreneurs from around the world to solve some of the toughest problems, in the industry, and that's why we set up Thrive, and we created Thrive as a platform where we're able to accelerate, invest. We run a corporate innovation program, and we run the Agtech Summit with Forbes Media, which becomes a great way to convene the industry, engage with the ecosystem. And we're recognized as the #1 Agtech accelerator in the world last year by AgFunder, and Crunchbase recognizes us as the most active investor in Agtech. And we're about to launch in Canada, so we're all excited about that. I'm losing I can't hear you.
My bad. So you're really well placed, John, to know that the agtech industry is growing. You're one of the drivers of that growth, and it's there to respond, as you were saying, to various food security issues. So can you tell us a little bit more about the innovation priorities of the agricultural sector in the States right now?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think you got to look at agriculture as a supply chain. And there's key stakeholders across that supply chain, you know, from the farmer community to the supply chain logistics and delivery to the consumer, you know, and obviously, you know, there's a government mandate and an issue here in terms of it being so important. So there's some of the stakeholders that we work with. And, you know, when we announced the USDA's innovation imperative with the Secretary of Agriculture earlier this year. And, you know, there's kind of 4 key things that the government is driving around, obviously producing more with less, reducing carbon footprint, reducing supply chain waste and driving efficiency, and carbon sequestration. So from a government perspective, there's a greater focus on innovation affecting those areas. When we're working with farmers, and that was one of the key things for us that is very different. Yes, we're in Silicon Valley, but Silicon Valley is surrounded by the richest land in the world and some of the biggest agriculture communities, whether it's in the wine industry or whether it's in the fresh food industry. And farmers and growers there and here and around the world are dealing with challenges around labor, water availability, quality, driving efficiency across, you know, their businesses, and also cost and economics. Every farmer is running a business, so they have to be profitable. They have to drive and deliver, you know, key numbers. And from a supply chain perspective, we've seen obviously food safety. I mean, it's hard to imagine in the 21st century that we still have, you know, outbreaks of E. coli, etc. So food safety, traceability, logistics are really important. And with COVID in particular, COVID has kind of put a big magnifying glass on the food supply chain, and areas around, you know, supply chain resiliency are really kind of getting a lot of it, you know, attention when we saw some of the issues on, say, meat packing supply chains in the, you know, during COVID here. And finally, from a consumer perspective, consumers are shifting from, you know, not just taste and flavor, but they're looking for a healthy product. You know, 50% of today's consumers are Gen Z or millennials. They have different demands than I might have had when I was that age. And they're also very aware of the impact of the agriculture supply chain. So brands being aware and fulfilling kind of sustainability issues are going to be important for our consumers. So they're kind of a combination of some of the things from some of the key stakeholders there.
For sure. You're talking about a supply chain approach, thinking about these issues. So, and if there's 2 countries that are intrinsically linked in that supply chain, it's probably Canada and US, right? So if a Canadian startup company or a Canadian company wanted to, you know, market its products outside of Canada, let's say in the States, why would they select the United States as a, you know, as a good target? And what would make the United States an interesting market to develop an agtech for a Canadian-based company?
Yeah, well, you know, I'm a European and lived here for about 20 years, so I've kind of an internal and external perspective. I wish I was Canadian because Canada is on the doorstep of the largest economy on the planet, and you're so fortunate to be able to have access to 3 million consumers. Likewise, language, obviously French, but obviously English. You know, there's easy communications and culture, and also in terms of trust, quality, reputation of Canada is very, very high here. People have a lot of high regard in terms of Canadian entrepreneurs, Canadian companies, and that's something that is not easy if you're on the other side of the planet and in a different culture. In terms of customers, whether it's either the farmer as a customer, you've got some of the biggest, you know, farms and big ag industries here that are headquartered here. Obviously, if you're in the Midwest, in the US, you know, obviously very strong on row crops, livestock, etc. Obviously, West Coast very strong in terms of specialty crops. So you really got an incredible opportunity to be able to do business with customers here. And then finally, in terms of venture capital, if I'm a young company, not alone am I looking for customers, not alone am I looking for a new market to sell into, but investment is a very important part of the scaling of a company. I happen to be fortunate to be here in Silicon Valley. There's $100 billion invested across the United States in venture capital every year. 40% of that is invested from Silicon Valley. And obviously there's a massive track record here in terms of companies like whether it's a Google or Facebook, but the next generation of Agtech. So I think that you're fortunate to be in a position like that, and it's envious for other countries around the world.
Mm-hmm. So you've just highlighted I think some key differences or some key aspects to what it's like the ag tech business in the United States. So that brings me to the next question. What would be the ideal conditions for a company to develop itself in the United States? What are the key components to think of if you want to expand to the States that is a reality that's different there than here in Canada, Quebec, Canada, for instance?
Yeah, I mean, I would say in terms of just kind of doing your homework, in terms of the there's 50 states in the United States. It's a very large, I wouldn't call it a country, it's like a continent. So really kind of focusing on, depending whether you're in livestock, servicing livestock side, whether you're servicing row crops, specialty crops. So I think the first thing is understand the market and understand where, the opportunity is, whether it's in the Midwest, whether you want to work with the dairy industry or the row crop industry. You've got a cluster of 5 or 6 major states there. If you're focused on specialty crops, whether that's, grapes, berries, nuts, vegetables, the West Coast of the United States is the hub. So I think the first thing is knowing where you go. I'm always a big fan of go fish where the fish are. So first things, understand where the fish are. I think the second thing in terms of, doing business here, I think you've got to get your pitch and be very focused in terms of the value proposition that you're delivering. I think no different than in Canada, selling into the farming community is not easy. You have to be able to prove out that here's what you do, here's what you deliver in terms of your technology. So your pitch is going to be very, very important from a customer perspective. And then likewise, if you have plans to scale at a global level, whether you want to be a multi-billion-dollar company, you're probably going to get investment from some of the bigger investors here in the Valley, and the Valley being Silicon Valley. And I think your ability to be able to pitch and network there, networking is so important, for doing business. I mean, when you're coming from another country, you don't know people automatically. So I think it's important to kind of tap into some key networks, whether it's within Thrive and our ecosystem or other ecosystems where you can actually get warm introductions, or you can get access to a community, much easier. So it can really accelerate, your ability to be able to grow and scale. I think as you develop as a company, I think having a footprint here, a legal setup, typically companies are setting up in Delaware from both a tax and from a business perspective. And many investors, and we're the same here, like investing in an entity that is in the U.S., particularly if you're investing significant dollars in those companies. So these are things that you need to be aware of. And then finally, in terms of either advisors, mentors, being able to tap into this ecosystem for people that have done it before and have made some of the mistakes that can guide you and help you with some of those warm introductions. So they'd be some of the key things that I think is important. And also, just don't take the US for granted. It's a big place, and I think focus and being very clear about where you're going to set up and who your customers are is going to be key.
Mm-hmm. Don't mistake the scale of the country for the preciseness your business needs to have to be successful in it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that US is like all of Europe. There's very different countries and very different cultures. you have the same thing and same kind of dynamics. Just because we don't speak different languages doesn't mean to say things are different, and different things are happening in different states. And again, being in the agriculture industry, trust relationships are super important. It's super important with every industry, but farmers and farming organizations really build off of that trust area, and you have to earn that trust. And being here and doing business, you need to be able to focus on what are the networks, or where are the farmers that you want to do business with.
All right, John Hartnett, founder and CEO of Thrive and SVG Venture. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Olivier.